Headaches, people! Today has been quite the crazy day when it comes to trying to deal with compiling. While it seems we were making a lot of progress, today seems to be mostly me hitting my head against a brick wall. Yeah, it's not exactly the, nicest of days at all. And the reason for that is many. It seems like I've had a lot of different issues, with different things and how they compile. It's all a complicated mess. To basically start with, I have two levels here of Death by the Dozen and Death on the Docks that seem to not work for some reason. Basically, they call for Quake Tuts, which I have. I have gotten Quake Tuts from the actual program that's included with Aftershock for, the Aftershock toolbots. The shareware Quake texture WAD 2 builder. All I can assume is that there needs to be like a full version of it, but I don't know where to find that one. And so yeah, it basically ends up becoming impossible to actually play either because it will crash the game. So, needless to say, I have two broken levels currently. I'm not sure if you can unbreak them, but so far they're broken. Okay, so we move past that, and I ran across two other levels that require a different one. It sounds like it's similar to the Quake test, but it's Quake 101. And it basically, like I said, pulls off the exact same thing. I don't know if I, renamed this to, Quake 101, if it would work, but I don't think so. I think it's, a different way of doing it or something. And, yeah, it's basically, I don't know how to acquire that one. And it's that one's that's kind of like a weird one. It's you can look online, but they're more recent versions. I don't trust something made in 1999. I want something that's kind of 1996-ish. So yeah. So we come to the third headache. Basically, the fact of the matter is, Quake is a pain in the butt when it comes to WAD files. It gives a lot more access to the files than, say, Doom, but there are still some headaches. And one of the headaches is, while you can rip some of the files from, the PAKs, not everything is modifiable. One thing that isn't modifiable really at all is kind of the textures. You can really, add to them and all that, but you need some way to rip the textures. There's no, WAD files inside, the PAK files or anything. So you're basically left with, the inability to actually use those. There's 5 different ones: Base, Medieval, Metal, Star, and Wizard. A bit weird because they don't really correspond to any level themes. They're very weird and hodgepodgey. And so it gets very, very confusing when talking about level themes because it's not really based off the WADs or really any consistent way whatsoever. It's quite headache-inducing, honestly. Yeah, all this is headache-inducing. It's a massive mess. Quake is a massive freaking mess. If you really want the best way of saying that, that's basically it right there. It's a giant can of worms. There's no nice, clean, organized way about it. See, Unreal is something, you got Unreal at it. You've got your consistent stuff there. You go to Thief, you got your consistent textures and stuff there. It's all very consistent and easy to understand. Here, it's all over the place. It's so hodgepodgey that it's very hard to put together or understand what's, kind of going on. It's you have all these different programs to rip things, all these different things, and yeah, it's a pain. But yeah, basically, even though I have a giant freaking toolbox filled with all these different programs that you think that would help you rip it, I'm not finding a program that can help me rip texture files. So what I did is went online. I ended up hunting around specifically for files made during 1996. I got some from July 2nd, 1996, which is when Quake's original release was. And so yeah, I basically got the 5 files, all basically released from 7/2/1996. So you would think it works. So I go out, I compile it, all that. Well, it does work, and at the same time it confuses me. Because even though they sound like they're the same texture files, I'm not sure if they actually are, because they have subtle differences from the ones I'm seeing in the regular game. Like, one thing that really confused me while I was doing the Door H series is that the texture used on pretty much all the walls is very similar to a texture used in the starting map, but the texture there is a much darker, stricter texture. It basically is like a sharp brown and a dark blue, while the one we saw was kind of like a gray and a light blue. So it's like differences while being the same, and it's very, very confusing. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand the logic of this. I got the files that are supposed to be the files of Quake. Why am I not getting stuff, the textures of Quake? I'm so confused by all this. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, I'm not sure if I'm setting fire to things. I don't know if I'm messing things up or what. I don't know if this is the right way to be doing it. I'm trying my best to do things as best as I can. But at the end of the day, it's a complete mess. Like I said, it would be a lot better if, in Quake itself, there would be some way to rip the texture files. Or, I found some program that could help me do that so I could feel more confident saying, I have ripped the texture files. And I could say that for, the one file that I have that's basically all the files together. Basically, Quake Text, it's called. And it's basically all these texture files put together in one. Now, that one, I ripped manually. I went in there, I got the program, and I basically manually ripped it. So that one, I can confidently say, came from my installation of Quake using a program that is designed in 1996 to do what I wanted to do. But these, like I said, make me nervous being on the internet to begin with, and the fact that they have these little anomalies doesn't help the situation. So needless to say, I'm a bit concerned. I'm not sure if things are working the right way that they should be. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping for the best. Like, if they're modified textures, I couldn't tell you. I don't think they're trying to modify any textures. In fact, I could kind of say they aren't, because if you look at, like, the WAD files themselves, they're the same textures as those weird anomalies. But, yeah, one thing, like, I noticed here was that, like, the lava was different, because I, like, tested the file or something like that, loaded it up, in my, Quake Army Knife to see what exactly the textures were, and I noticed the lava texture was, like, drastically different from the base game. It's more like the, QTEST texture for some reason, which is really weird, but we'll work with it, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of why the textures look kind of funky when we get to the actual level, is because I have no freaking clue. And because it's a freaking hodgepodge, I'm a complete mess to try and deal with. And so I don't know if I'm doing things right, wrong, I don't know. I'm just doing I'm basically being thrown. And yeah, I still have 2 other levels I'm trying to figure out where exactly the texture file is, and have 2 other levels that are totally broken. So needless to say, this is quite the headache. Anyway, I did find out that I can actually modify the .map files and basically redirect it to, like, my installation area for the WAD file. You basically just get rid of it for being read-only. You set the WAD directory to the WAD directory you want, and it'll work exactly the same. So, luckily, that does work. You don't have to, like, actually put it in the folder that it's specifically saying. You can modify that, but it's still quite a bit of fun. Anyway, this time around, we're dealing with a very simple test level. It seems like that's a lot of times usually. But yeah, basically we're dealing with PLAT1, which is a simple test for a single moving platform. Very, very bare bones, very, very basic. The room is a single L shape with a pit down the middle with lava in it. Its layout is not really important, but serves to help illustrate the use of moving objects. The level contains one moving object, a platform, which floats over the pit and moves quickly from one end to the other. So if you have any questions, ask Watcher or Sean. Yeah, so let's see here. Yeah, it's basically a inverted L as like a rub. And yeah, basically the bottom of the pit has metal on it, and on top of the metal is a bunch of lava. So the player's at the western end of the L room, the short end of it basically, and you basically have a lot of lights where you can see in there, of course. So anyway, the single moving platform is basically a cube of metal that moves from one end of the L room to the other and changes direction in the middle. It moves rather quickly. Basically, it moves at 192, which is the same speed as a running player. So if you're running, you're basically just keeping up with it. If you're bunny hopping, of course, you're moving faster than that. So, actually, I think a person that's running, can't they go up to like 400? So I might be a bit wrong. I think actually I was able to outpace it before. But yeah, I think like a weird default or something like that is what they're saying. Anyway, it starts initially at the west, the short end of the L, the same as where the player sits. So rules are as follows. The platform starts at the west end, moves to the center, then to the north end, and last to the center again. There are two center positions because each position tells the platform where to go next. So one is needed to tell it to go north, and the other is needed to tell it to go west. If the platform path is defined to go through a wall, the platform will go through the wall. Unfortunately, the player will not, which is often painful. So yeah, brushes will go through walls. They're not actually solid, even though you could, like, stand on something. And yeah, you are physically solid on the other hand, so don't try and go through walls unless you want to kind of fall. Anyway, that's the level readme documentation, all that. We got plenty of documentation this time. A lot more than before. Not much that was actually useful, but it's all there. And here we are in PLAT1. And as I said before, the textures kind of look funky. I think this wall texture is the same. I think it's like a Elder World texture. But this lava really is bugging me because that right there is the texture from QTEST. This totally looks like it could belong in QTEST, not actual Quake. And it's really bugging me. And yeah, like I said, it's I don't know if it's the fault. Well, it's the fault of the WAD, definitely, but I'm not sure how to make the WAD behave the way I want it to. I don't normally go out and compile my own levels, and so I'm basically trying to work, doing what I know, which is take a WAD file, compile it, use a QBSP, and then add light. And it seems like I'm hitting my head into a wall here because we got odd texture. We got, like I said, QTEST texture, which definitely is not what it's something I'm happy to see, because that means that something's odd. Either that or medieval.wad, the one that's basically pulling all this information, doesn't have an actual full lava one, and it's normally made for runic. Maybe that's it, because normally runic levels would be the ones that have the texture of lava. Or they pull it from start.wad, aka the hybrid one. But this one's pulling directly from medieval. And so therefore, in medieval, it does have lava, but it's the QTEST lava. Maybe that's it. It would be interesting to find out, people. Like I said, I don't really know how to go about doing that, especially since I have no program that can really rip the WAD files. I need to keep digging, because hopefully there's something that does it. I mean, someone else had to do it to get to the position we're at today. But yeah, like I said, tried finding the WAD online, found all 5, but yeah, you would think if you had the game, you'd be able to rip the WAD files, specifically because Quake is supposed to be very modifiable and all that. It's this is when id Software knew people were going to be modding the game, and so therefore should have kind of made all parts of the game modifiable. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, Quake isn't really that nice. It doesn't really play nice. Like, the editors, you can't really see the entities in the actual editor itself. It's not really that good. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, at least it works in FPS, all that, but the technical aspect of it is really, really confusing, and that's kind of where the problems come in. You know, like I said, on the one hand, it's, you know, a good FPS. It's definitely enjoyable. On the other hand, it's an absolute headache if you're trying to get under the hood and trying to figure out these details. Or, you know, you decide, let's compile a level! Because you get this. And this just bugs me. This really bugs me here because I know this is the QTEST Lava and not the lava we see in Quake. And just that alone is enough to make me really driven insane by a very simple test level where it really shouldn't matter. You know, most people are just going to load it up, not care. They'll probably say, ooh, look, new texture lava. Sweet. Me, I'm like, new texture lava, but it's not new texture. It comes from a WAD file that's supposed to be the same as the traditional. This is supposed to be vanilla, and I think it is vanilla, especially since it comes from QTEST. So it really becomes very, very bloody confusing. Anyway, as you see, here's the platform. I can move fast in it. So you see, if I die, my head moves, and I basically slide back and forth into it. Yeah, and basically under it's like some runic metal that you can't really see, but because, you know, you're kind of dying and all that. It's kind of hard to see under there. The distortion's going to make it hard. Yeah, I can't really see too well because the lava's going to kill it. But, yeah, basically, like I said, you can move faster than the lava. Wait, not faster than the lava. You can move faster than the platform. Like, the platform's actually really, really slow. Doesn't help that it has to turn the corner, but even if you didn't, it's like... Look at me, I'm moving faster. Because my movement speed's like at 400, and yeah, it's saying like... You know, it'd be more like watch speed or something like that. It's, you know, really because, you know, I edited the config file, and yeah, I guess this is what the default would be. You know... Anyway, I think I'm really done here. There's really not much point. It's literally just a platform moving back and forth over a pool of lava. It just really is driving me crazy with that texture. Like I said, at the end of the day, I think it's just because of QTEST or something like that. I think these textures are being pulled from different areas, and some of them were like unused or whatnot, and thus pulled from like other ones or something like that. It's kind of hard to exactly explain how exactly all the Quake levels work, but they're a complete hodgepodge mess. That's pretty much it. You know, Quake is a complete mess. You know, that's kind of the one sad thing about Quake is the fact that it was designed as a mess, it looks like a mess, and it pretty much is under the hood a complete mess. You know, like, id base is really, like, the most structured thing you have in here. Once you get outside of that, it really gets very, very confusing to even describe themes. Like, you know, things that are in Wizard, but not in Elder World. You know, and then it's like, Elder World will have terracotta levels. It's hard to describe pure, but you know they exist. It's all very confusing because on the one hand, like I said, it's all very consistent to the point that there's certain rule sets for each one, but it's so hard to describe because it feels like they constantly are borrowing from each other to a point that it's very hard to find a pure level for anything outside of like id base, generally. Unless you have like one texture or something like that, like being, you know, for these levels here. Anyway, I don't really have much more to talk about. Mostly this was just a video to show that level, and to mostly rant about all the different little issues that have been plaguing me, because I'm not really sure what progress I'm going to be making on all of them. Your worst case scenario, I'll put up the other two levels under broken levels and call it a day, but I really want to find, like, the texture file for that one, Quake 101. So yeah, I need to keep looking for that one. Hopefully I'll find something. And yeah, this is definitely quite the headache or whatnot. I just want things to work. And it feels like things are acting up on me, and you know, it's all because I'm having to do things in odd ways. I just wish I could find programs that would help me do things. You know, I'd totally be willing to use DOS programs to have ripped and all that, but I can't find that. Instead, I get useless programs, like something that allows me to list, the levels that are in a certain directory when in Quake. Who in God's name ever uses that? Under what circumstances does that ever become useful for me? And then there's some, there's some WAD, creators, but they don't really allow me to, rip it. It's like it expects you to already have had the file. Or you could use it to put in something to Quake, but that doesn't really help you to begin with. And then there's model viewers and all that fun stuff. But yeah, like I said, it feels like nothing that's really useful for my circumstances. Besides that one, that shareware one for QuakeTests that did help me with compiling a lot of these levels and definitely helped the series really get off to a great footing. If not for that program, this would have been a lot more of a headache. But here, I'm definitely either A, need to find more programs, or B, need to go, dig online and find files specifically from 1996. I'm not going against something from 1999 because I do not trust that to be valid. I want something that's pure 1996 action-based. So yeah, with that in mind, people, I have really nothing more to talk about. It was a really pointless level to begin with. So I thank you all for watching, and I guess I'll see you all next time.